Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Dedicated to the Craft, a podcast brought to you by Ballast Brewing Company. I'm Jeff Lozano, your host. Today's going to be a fun one, but before we get to that conversation, a little good brew housekeeping. Fall has graced us with Pumpkin Down, available at all our locations on draft. A seasonal interpretation of our Scottish ale, Piper Down. It's delicious. It's very fallish, pumpkin spice and everything nice. Make sure you guys go get some before it taps out. Victory at Sea Day this year, details to come. You can find Victory at Sea at all of our locations, packaged, ready to go, and at selected retail. So make sure that you have your eyes open for that. New merch drop at our locations and online. If you are shopping online, use DeadRinger20 at checkout for free shipping on all orders $75 and up. Cool. I love our next conversation. The Newtopia boys are a cider maker, and they're really changing the game when it comes to cider. They're making cider cool again. That's the way I look at them. I like these guys ever since I met them from the beginning, from the get-go. Their energy is really, really, really high octane. And Rick Morena, his mind is he's just a beautiful mixologist, and the things that they're doing with cider are just amazing. We got into it in this conversation. Me and Colby decided to pick their brains to see what the boys are doing, what new innovations that they have, and what might be coming down the pipeline, how hard it was to get into the craft cider game, especially in San Diego, where everything seems to be about craft beer. These guys are definitely the guys to do it. And they made a cider fan out of me. Hope they do the same to you. So enjoy the conversation. All right, let's kick this off, guys. Newtopia Cyder in the house. Lord Chandler and the Newtopia Rebels, man. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's going on, man?
What's up, fellas?
Yeah. All right. I waited to crack my cider open because I want to know from the boys which one I should crack open first. The Saurier. Should I do the POG? I got it all, baby. We got the banana. What am I doing?
Pog.
Let's do it. All right. Right for the. Ooh, it sounds even better with cider. I thought it sounded good with beer. Hey, gentlemen. This is pretty rad because Rick, I've known you since you kind of started Newtopia, at least the build out, your location at Scripps Ranch. I remember, if you remember, but I kind of wandered in there, and you were just so stoked about where you were at that particular stage, breaking ground. You showed me all around the space, and you might have been the most excited man in the county. And the energy that you have really kind of rubbed off on me that day. I remember going and kicking it into gear. You're a madman, and what you guys are doing in the cider game is pretty ridiculous. And I want to know everything about where you guys started, where you guys are at, and where you guys are going. But before that, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, Rick Moreno, cider maker, co-founder, former owner of Toronado, Seattle.
Sorry, Ryan Kinnerup. What's up, guys? I help out with the sales piece. Rick and I went to college together, so I moved out here from Arizona to start this project up.
Rad.
Chris Quigley. I guess I'm the head cider maker now.
Right.
Yeah, a new guy on the block, right? At the time of this recording, you are how many days into Newtopia?
-1.
Well, look, dude. If nobody knows Newtopia, they'll get there. If nobody knows Chris, you'll also hear his story because you've kind of done a leap from the beer world into the cider world, and I'm really excited about that because you guys are doing some wicked stuff down in Newtopia. So, what is it that you guys are doing, and why?
I'll just kick it off. Yeah. We're just doing really unique, peculiar, just off the wall cider. I mean, cider is completely malleable, so we can do everything from dry spicing a cider with a lamb's leg, or using bananas or oranges, which are a little bit more traditional, modern seasoned ciders that we do. But, I think it's just the freedom of the cider and how young it is. Craft cider was what craft beer was, probably almost 15 years ago, right? And so it's just been nice to be able to get into a niche that is really new, really, the sky's the start of everything. We've gone to be able to make traditional ciders all the way up to just really just mind-boggling ciders I like to use, So I think it started out with us really with the passion of distillation. So Ryan and I really enjoyed making brandies, and to be quite frank, just didn't feel like waiting years for a product to age and be put in a bottle and sold. We like the idea of cider, which was the start of brandy, and could turn similar to the time of how beer turns in terms of from start to finish with fermentation. So there's a lot of craft beer culture in craft cider, and it was just really symbiotic in San Diego because we have so many hop heads which love hops from Yakima, which is exactly where we get our cider or our apples from. Our cider, which is from Eastern Washington. So it kind of just all work together. There's not enough apples here in San Diego to do what we really do as a regional cider house, but we've had a lot of success in the past couple of years, I'd say, just with the help of Ballast Point, of course.
No, you guys are on fire, man, on your own merit.
You guys having ambassadors are key. I think that's part of it is sharing that story of something that's small batch, truly craft, peculiar, really pressing the borders and the edges of what a cider should be versus what it could be. So,
well, you guys have done a complete 180 from what people think cider is. A lot of people think cider is this, and I won't say boring because it's not. But what you guys have done is you've really amped it up, and you're showing everybody what you can actually do with this age-old beverage.
Yeah, and Rick and I, you mentioned him and I went to college together. I was in the alcohol industry out in Arizona, distributing fine wine, champagnes. I worked in beer for a while. So I got some experience industry-wise. And, for me, there was a big gap in the cider category. We'd sold some at different distributors, but the ability to be creative and do different things, savory ciders, stuff like that, wasn't really being done in a large volume yet. So we're trying to, like Rick was talking about, be a regional cider house, be able to produce enough to take care of a region and still do really cool things.
That's so rad.
Well, you gotta produce good product too. There's a reason that we drink your product. It's pretty amazing.
I don't know. I wasn't really that into cider until, I like cider back and forth a couple places. It wasn't until I had Newtopia when they first opened that I was like, hey, I can start coming by and hanging out. I'm like, hey, I can drink this more than once every 6 months. I can start.
Dude, yeah.
And
one of the things
was key too, being able to use regional fruits and do the kind of crazy stuff we do and engage with local farmers. That's been really rad.
One of the things that I love is when I meet someone or a group of producers that make me fundamentally change the way all my preconceptions about what something might be. Newtopia has single-handedly done that for me when it comes to cider. Before that, here in San Diego, we had a few cideries around, hard cideries, right, like Julian Ciders, and they're phenomenal. But when I met Rick and when I met you, Ryan, and when I went into Newtopia to see what you guys were doing, you were really thinking outside of the box, and you could see a lot of the crossover from what the craft beer had kind of already paved out, but it wasn't a mirror of it. You guys understood your product, you understood what works and what doesn't, but what you guys really did well is you were making me scratch my head going is that even gonna work? And then I would taste it and go holy crap, this works, it's so delicious.
Yeah, when we just gotten started, obviously our production wasn't where it is today, but it was nice to, when we started getting up to producing and distributing some cider, we kind of wanted to go into the beer industry side and try and tackle the top 20 beer bars and prove that, the quality of the cider and everything has a spot there on that tower, that valuable real estate,
Oh, dude, yeah. And it does. This is delicious. This POG that I want you guys to talk about in a little bit is delicious. But so from start to finish, not in a nutshell, I guess, but when you guys ventured out to say, hey, we're going to make cider, we're going to make crazy cider, we're going to make delicious and innovative cider, how scary was that entering because there's a positive side, right, where you go like, hey, no one has this, it's an untapped market, and then there's this other side going like, oh, I don't know, it's maybe there's a reason for it. What was your thought process going into it?
I think San Diego being the beer mecca of really almost California and the world, we had the audience, and so craft beer drinkers, we already knew they had a greater appreciation for a depth of flavor on a particular libation. So they understand that, this particular craft required some love, there was some work involved, it wasn't mass customized, everything was, everything's from orchard to glass. People see that. I mean, they see us working and visiting the orchardists and picking the apples and doing the crushes. It just made for us, the timing was perfect. I think everything in life, sometimes, you're either good at your job or you get lucky. I think I'd rather be lucky at what we do. I think time, we've been really lucky, but still be able to execute recipes that are really cocktail driven. You want to kind of build on that?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention too. Being able to work with all the local fruit and everything, and then local distillers as well has been really cool to be able to, partner with somebody that can take our soiree and distill it into a brand for us. That we then turn into, on Wednesday nights, we do a cocktail night where we use that brandy and make signature cocktails every Wednesday, and that's been pretty rad to see how that crossover is there. And then it inspires the ciders as well, with those same ingredients that are in cocktails, just on a larger scale.
I know where I'm going on Wednesdays now. I was about to say, I haven't had any brandy. Where can I get the brandy at? Now I know.
Yeah, we took the soiree and we took it to 7 Caves with Jeff, and he distilled it down for us. We brought it back, and I believe right now it's at about 160 proof, what we have. And so we didn't blend it back to get it down to like that level. We used it to build the cocktails then and dilute it with the cocktails.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's awesome. And it makes so much sense.
We have a 4 or 5 cider that we're serving instead of like a real cocktail.
How many people were doing ciders with adjuncts in them? I feel like there wasn't many, right? And then, and if there was there a mentor for you guys, or was it mostly just the parade of consultants that you had come through, initially that just kind of inspired different directions?
I think a lot of homage goes to Matt Bonney. Being in Toronto, Seattle, he kind of gave me a portfolio to pick through of cider houses, of the best cider houses in the world, which is in the Northwest, to kind of pick through and really go through and, and say, hey, this is the full side of the spectrum with everything from like old school heritage cider that like Wandering Angus does, all the way up to like modern seasonals that like Schilling or like massive macro cider houses like Seattle Cider Company doing, so it's been, taking Chris up there as actually one of our first trips that we're planning here in the next few weeks is taking him up to Seattle and Oregon to tour some of the larger cider houses, regional cider houses. But that kind of inspired us, and I knew that there was opportunity there, but that craft beer drinkers were looking for something a little bit more flavor depth, and then I tasted this amazing coffee cider from Schilling. I'm like, my God, I can't believe coffee's paired with cider. That blows me away. And it was amazing. And then I had this, crazy cider from Locust, which is, vanilla bean cider, which I think Chris could take that to a different level in a San Diego style format. But, we're just taking what, we go to the Northwest to get inspired, or Spain or England, and then basically make it a Southern California twist. So we'll source from
Matt probably would have been one of the best people to learn from, just with all his experience from Bottle Works to Browers, and then to being an owner with you at Toronado's. So yeah, he saw the whole thing get bigger and bigger as well.
He did. He helped us launch our first distro in Seattle.
Yep.
Actually, so he brokered that deal, and believe it or not, Soiree was something that he named. He named that SKU.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Is there a wet hop beer since you deal so much with Yakima? Have you done a wet hop cider? Like, have I missed that?
But not like Yakima.
Right. Not
Like,
like
if we had a choice, we should do that. Like, yeah, we put it local, and I appreciate my homies from Star B, like they're homies. You know, I just think there's more opportunity, like you guys said, Yakima with like, just varietals to like play with. You know,
wait, you can do more than one or split a batch in half. You know?
Totally, yeah.
Dude, this is delicious. The soiree is
sounds like a job for Gilgogi.
Oh, Gilgogi.
Yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce your last name, dude. It's I was like, I'm not gonna try.
Tough one, dude. I've been waiting for this whole moment to have
everybody
figure it out.
Everybody knows how to say giggles.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone knows.
That's how that came to be.
Right.
Well, listen, what you guys, at least this is, and I'm speaking very much for myself on this one, but what I think that your company is doing or has done is you made cider cool. You brought it back. You made cider cool again. And I don't think, I don't mean to insult anybody that has never lost their lust for ciders, or for all the cider makers that have that thought has never entered their mind. But for a long time, especially here in San Diego, it wasn't really a household beverage, right? And what you guys have done is you guys have taken it to the point where it's creative, it's delicious, but it's cool. And so, Ryan, when you're going and touching all these accounts and stuff, are you kind of bumping in the beginning? Were you bumping into that?
Yeah, for sure. You know, and because you're kind of always bumping into a roadblock anyways, because a lot of times in, large places, craft beer bars, whatever, there's one dedicated handle for something like a sour or a cider. So, going in, you're taking up valuable real estate. And I think that, the return of that is the passion and the hard work and the true craft that goes into making that product, whether it be when we source locally, which is a different process for us, or when we, source from our larger farmers in the Northwest. And just talking to people about quality and, the market, like Rick said, was very open to craft beer and creativity. And I think we're able to show that within this product. We brought the hops in with our IPC to kind of pay homage to like the beer market in San Diego when we opened.
Right. And you don't want to get put on the shelf of the alternative. Like you don't want that moniker, right? Alternative alcohol, alternative, because it's not an alternative. It's a creature of its own. It's a product of its own. And I don't know if a lot of people know what cider actually entails and what goes into it. So who wants to take it? Who wants to answer that question? What is cider? How do you make it?
Pressure's on.
Hey, look, man, we'll take it, Chris. It's all you can. No, I mean it is. I mean, cider is not rocket science, but it does require an art and a lot of work. So this is the analogy. So craft brewers are very proactive. They cook something. They cook an ingredient to create a flavor. Right? That's very proactive. You heat something. You boil something up. Right? You guys do that in the mash. Right? You all do that. Right? That's
sugar.
Yeah. You all are very proactive. As a cider house, we're very reactive in a sense that all of our work is typically done outside of the cellar in the orchard, where you pick, wash, crush, juice, and then flash pasteurize, because I like to control flavor with yeast flavor, right? That's the cool part about what we do. We use yeast to create different flavors in our cider. But then we bring it on down here, where Chris gets to sprinkle his magic fairy dust and create these like monumental, ciders for the world.
Rad. So that's
that's
pretty much
perfect.
And it's not. It's like the crossover though is not, it's not apples to apples, right? It's a uniqueness of its own. And how have you guys found that creating those bridges between the cider world and the beer world have really taken you guys to the next level?
Really, 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 for production purposes, it's helped us because we, if you come in our cellar house, we're not like a typical winery where we have like flat wine tanks and, we use, custom conicals, essentially stubbies that are, wider at the bottom to reduce the amount of stress on the leaves. It gives us better flocculation in our fermentation, and, juice is heavier, and we deal with, I was talking to Colby about this a little earlier off the set, but we deal with pectin, So Chris hasn't played with that yet, but it's definitely a variable, because we want to make sure we have a good quality cider out there. And right now everything is unfiltered through our cider, so a lot of the fruit and flavor are really forward, relatively noticeable. But it's similar to like beer, from like starter fermentation to a finished product. It's anywhere between 14 days. If we've already had base, fermentation usually takes about 6 to 10 days for primary fermentation, and then secondary is usually 5 to 6 days. So that's how that kind of works. Very similar. Cool. So we treat it very similar to beer. I would say, everything from the type of yeast strains, the adjuncts, the varietals of apples, similar to hops. I think hops, and is very similar.
That's the key right there. And I've heard, I usually describe the difference between wine and beer, and I describe it the exact same way. Wine is very agricultural.
Yeah.
What you do in the field is directly impacts what's in the glass. Whereas brewers, we're like chefs, we're cooks. We get ingredients from all over the world to make one product in the glass, kind of a thing, So I feel like that puts you guys apart, is that you're not treating the cider like a wine. You're treating it like a beer. And I think cider for a long time was lumped into the whole, wine family. And I think you are the guys that are breaking it out of that.
Don't get me wrong. We've had a lot. We've got a lot of pushback. You can ask Ryan. We have purists come here, and we've gotten shunned. Even I hate to say, even in the industry, it's very it's very. You're friends at first in the beginning, but after you're like 6, it changes. It's just something weird. I don't know if you grow or if you get bigger or.
Brandon Hernandez wrote that article about me making the move. It was like a minute later, somebody's like, is it sweet shit or is it the good completely dry oak barrel?
well, you know what? Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Chris, now that you mentioned it yourself? When you say making the move, why don't you tell everybody listening what that means?
Yeah, I worked at some breweries in town, worked my way up to being a head brewer at a few places, and was fortunate enough to be on some good teams and have some success with them. And then was kind of just doing it, I love brewing beer, and I always will. But, this opportunity came up. Rick reached out to me, and it was, at first it was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then it was like, all of a sudden, I was like, oh, serious. And then I was like, hey, this is a good plan. What's your problem? Like, what's the catch? Like, something's got to give? Like, and then the more we went through it, the more sense it made. And I like to be challenged, and I by no means had it all figured out on the beer side. I thought I got to a level where I was doing a pretty good job and able to create most anything I wanted. I didn't have it licked or anything like that, but I had it figured out pretty good, and now I get to do that again. And for me, that uncomfortable feeling is really exciting, and that's that growth. You feel like shit about it, but next thing you know, you're doing big things and accomplishing a lot of stuff, and it's kind of thrilling. You can't, if you're always feeling safe, you get a little. You just don't try. You don't try so hard, and just reach out and try crazy stuff and see what works.
It's art. It's like going from watercolor to oils. You know what I mean? It's still art.
Yeah, it's so similar. Like I keep in that short amount of time, I've already found so many. They're gonna get sick of me. And you know what? This is like this, and they're like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Wow." I mean, nerd out on you to make you guys not want to listen to me.
Well, dude, you guys
they need it.
For sure. You guys have already had that outlook, right? That you've already built up those bridges. You guys have already found how the beer world can kind of seep into the fabric of the cider world. Rick, what's your thought process about bringing on a bona fide brewer onto your team? Like, what's the thought process in that?
You know, I think it's important for us to always stay true to our roots. I mean, I grew up drinking craft beer, specifically Ballast Point. I just think, you know, the sky's the limit. With Chris, you know, of course, being an amazing medal winning brewer, that caliber of artist, you know, needed to take us to a new level. I'll give you an example. Like next year, I showed him our release calendar. You know, we, you know, are essentially canning 2 cores every month, but, you know, putting out 2 to 3 limited cans every month to stay fresh on the scene, as you guys may know, in the grocery markets, right? And in the independent, for us, it's the independent markets. We're not in the big box yet like you guys, but we will get there. And with his knowledge, with big players in the business and crafty players in the business, the goal was to still have that creativity at a local level to pay homage to the locals, and then also drive our production on a regional level to markets like Arizona, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles.
Well, you've hired other brewery alumni as well, correct?
Right.
We did.
One that we know pretty well.
Industry out in Arizona. I think I got in the industry in about 2003 as a merchandiser. I worked my way up, started doing sales there, worked for Coors and Miller House, and then had an import portfolio that it was called then, not really craft. And then I moved on to a Diageo and Moet Hennessy house and did high-end champagnes and wines and spirits, and actually built some cool brands. Worked for prior to that too. I was doing the 211, so I worked for those guys in McKenzie River.
Oh man,
211 and
I'm surprised you remember any of that.
Wow.
So I did that for a while as well, and built that brand up to where they sold it off to Miller for a bunch of money. And so I had some of that experience in there, and you know, hadn't really ever messed with anything related to cider. I mean, I worked at a distributor that had, you know, they had Angry Orchard, and we tip our hats to those guys. They put that stuff all over the country to kind of help put it on the map.
Right.
And people were open to buying cider, I think, because of that as well. Samuel Adams did a good job, I think, with that one. But, you know, our focus is a little different than that. So it's been cool to focus here regionally and source regionally, and sky's the limit, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And dude, for anybody that's not watching, Ryan has a solid stash, and he's wearing a hat right now, but he's a ball. I can't imagine you coming into an account and selling banana apple bum cider. You just make it cool, bro. You just make it legit. So that's pretty rad. But you know what? I've already gone through a little bit of the POG. I've already gone through a little bit of the Sourier, and I want everyone to people are going to go out there and taste it. So why don't you guys talk us through a little bit about what we're drinking? We can start with whatever you guys want to start with.
We can start with POG.
Boom.
You know, that's our version of a POG. We use pineapple. Pineapple has been a fruit ingredient we've used a lot of, but a lot of our pineapple stuff was not pineapple forward. So, you know, we put coriander in, we put other things in, elderberry, but this is our true pineapple-ish forward cider. You know, we use the blood oranges along with that, and then we do the pink guava, and then we finish that off with the lychee tea and a little bit of crystallized ginger to give us this product, which we're working on getting this into our regular production schedule. It started as a limited prior. We did it again, and it's going to probably roll into our permanent available on draft product.
It's delicious.
Yeah. And this was just started canning it too, right?
Yeah, we just canned that 2 days ago, so those are fresh.
Yeah, we had that tiki style cider. Again, that's like cocktail driven. You know, like in Hollywood, for example, our ciders used a lot to just blend cocktails. I mean, that's just a big part of it on our side, just because it's really malleable. You know, like the banana apple bum, we throw in like 7 Ks rum in there and garnish it with the banana and a pineapple. And that's fantastic. I'm trying to think what else, like I don't like clementine. You know, like with a buck or a gin. You know, like so.
Yeah.
We like cocktails.
Well, dude, you guys are teetering around 6%, 6.5%, 7%. They're big boys.
Yeah, most of our stuff runs in between that, up to 6.9999.
They go down too easy.
They do.
And drinking with a straw.
They're ridiculously crushable, dude, and it's scary.
It's the same. It's the same price as Hawaiian Sun.
I'm a child.
So and they don't even have alcohol in theirs.
Nothing delicious. I just slam the whole thing. So cider, I'm like, ew.
Yeah, dude, this is very, very just well balanced and delicious. The color's cool, and like I said, this is it's sweet, but it's not overbearing. It's not like it doesn't come off as, oh man, whoa, that was a sugar bomb. You can have a punch bowl of this, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, usually that's what happens when you use fresh fruit and you keep the integrity of the raw ingredient first. You know, that's important to source the best quality products, and sometimes it costs us a little bit more to do that, but I think that, you know, it just makes sense with the vision of what we're trying to convey as a strong regional cider house.
Right.
Am
I wrong to want this over ice with a little dark rum kind of on the top of it?
Yeah.
What are full Mai Tai basically, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. We could do that at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have our brandy? I wish I could give you a bottle or a brandy through this to blend.
Nice.
Okay. Well, what have you guys?
Some of those small, like 3-gallon oak barrels with the brandy in it? Just get them nice and dark. Do some heavy char. Get a bunch of color into it.
We're allowed to do a pomade that like that. We're allowed to do a pomade that would be wrapped to Chris to start. We should do it like that with Crush. But yeah, in little tiny barrels. I think that'd be awesome. You guys should come join us for a Crush.
Oh, dude, we're definitely going to be swinging by there very regularly. One time that I walked into your spot, a few times, because when I saw this, I came back. You guys were literally at the bar pouring cider through a Randall. And, you know, it was basically a funnel that you guys had stuffed a bunch of different spices. And I really, to tell you the truth, I forgot what was in there because I probably drank so much of it that it just fried every memory, every brain cell as I left. But you guys are very creative. I mean that to say that you are experimenting with flavors that some of which really make a lot of sense, like this pog. I don't think you have to really, you don't really have to go too far to see how that works. But you guys have something that we pour at Ballast Point at all the tasting rooms, like Chai Me a River, which is one of my favorite.
100%.
Dude, it is ridiculously good, and it was one of those ciders where I was like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is going to work. And I remember, Rick, you gave it to me. Why don't you tell everybody what that is?
Yeah, that was crazy. The Chai Me River was specifically made for really San Diego residents. It's hot here. I mean, as you know, we've been hitting record heat numbers here recently these past couple weeks. I think we tipped out at 109 here at the ranch. I don't know where you live, Chris. It's probably hotter, but
East County.
Yeah.
Just slightly hotter, not much.
Yeah.
4 degrees.
So we made with the intent to cure that. What I mean by is we use a decaffeinated blend of chai because we're always outside, chamomile to relax the body. So we dry spice it, similar to like you guys dry hop. We dry spice, and then we also dry spice it with chrysanthemum flowers, which act as a normal body coolant, which drops your body temperature down. And so the more you consume it, the cooler you get. You know,
the more you drink, the cooler you get.
Come on, dude.
Why does it? Yeah, you need a shirt with that.
That's so hard. That's so hard.
That's the sign.
That one.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense on paper. You go, I don't know about that, like I did. But when you drink it, and especially even when even as you're describing it right now, I don't get like, oh, that must be super refreshing. But breaking down everything that you guys have put into it and the rationality behind it, and then once you drink it, you go, oh, this is super refreshing, super crushable. And I love that you got an opportunity to explain it, because it's that kind of thought process going into recipe creation that I think is overlooked in by a lot of people, where they think that we're just throwing stuff together. But like you just said, I mean, that is as I don't know, as far as recipe development is concerned, that's as
well, and,
as intimate as it can get.
When we first did it, it was just a fall release, just like another small batch, small release, fall time of year, and then it just kept growing from there to where we had to make it. It's our core product and our number one seller. And it didn't start off one of our true cores to start off with. It morphed into our number one seller.
It was my favorite before I knew all that shit too. So
Yeah.
Food pairing.
Yeah.
What are your favorite food pairings? The three of you, each just do one with this.
Well, first thing I'll say is we did a dinner with somebody, and they did a frozen version of the chai, and that was for a dessert. It was amazing.
Ooh, I could see that.
And another dinner we did, they boiled it, they cooked it down and did it with caramel, and they put it on top, and that was unreal too on the dessert side.
that sounds good too. Vanilla ice cream.
Yeah,
That's it. Just vanilla ice cream and that cider. Like, it's so good that something simple along with it. Like, it's like Indra Ninja, right? I've always heard a great pairing with that is white rice. You know?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know, when something's that good and that complex, like something very simple and a good, like, just give me something simple with it. And it's a good pairing because it doesn't have to go very far.
Right.
I think for chai, it's chai and rye. 13 ounces of chai, 3 ounces of rye whiskey, your favorite. Garnish with some bitters. Maybe orange peel.
I think I have all of that.
Yeah, you know what you're drinking tonight, boss.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting point, because you guys relate a lot of it to the cocktails, and as far as the mixology is concerned, it makes a lot of sense. But your cider, not only is it standalone delicious, but you can take it to new levels as a mixer. And do you guys do that a lot? Is that typically how you enjoyed it at home? Like you just like making cider cocktails?
Frosés, cider slushies for us are like, that gets me here on Wednesday nights too. So we do the slushies and the cocktails on the same night, typically with local lumpia, which is so good. And it's finger foods, fried foods, and cocktails. I hate to say it, but it's just like.
Wait, I'm putting this in right now.
It works. It works.
It is packed too, so definitely definitely make a reservation. So everyone is happy. It's awesome. We know people out here. So.
Dude, that sounds amazing, and I'm sure that I'm going to be hitting you guys up for more cider cocktails and beer pairings. But why don't we move on to what is this, dude? The Soirée.
Yeah.
I just poured a little bit of this out, and it's delicious.
So that was what Ryan was talking about, and that is really that's the maker's mark, I think, when I say in terms of where we stem from. That is our 5-apple blend. So it's Fuji, Gala, Honeycrisp, Red Delicious, and Granny Smith. And Cole's got it right. I think he's pour our cider.
Aeration, yeah.
Yeah, to create natural effervescence.
Ooh,
he's making that bubbly. And he smells with his nose and keeps his mouth open while he smells, and then he consumes it. We'll drink it with you here, actually.
Yo, please, dude. Light gold. This thing is coming in hot at a 6.5%.
Yeah.
Your artwork is sick too, by the way. we've been showing it to the camera, but everybody that's not watching, your guys' cans, the artwork is awesome, visually and aesthetically. You know,
literally means party in French, and those 5 apples, it is a party. You can take this; it's an easy cocktail balance, blender. But do you want to chat about how we kind of traverse and
see? That was half of it.
Kind of touched on it.
Yeah, so like we start a lot of our ciders start with this base. Historically, since we've opened, we've focused on 2. We use a champagne yeast, and then we have a Belgian saison yeast as a base that we build most of our ciders off of.
2 box strain, right?
Yep, 2 box strain. So this guy is our base, and then we build the limiteds off of that, larger ferments of this, and then secondaries when it's fruited. It's just your true to style, I think, kind of just base cider for what we're doing. West Coast fruit sourced. It's a little dry to me at the end, which I really like. It's not an overly sweet cider. The sweetness is just coming from the apple on that. So I think it's got a really good application for pairings at dinners because it can pair well with different foods. Pairing with appetizers or finger foods. We've done stuff with that. So it allows it to be a very malleable product for us. And again, this was not originally going to be a quart. It just picked up speed to where it's this and chai or the 1 and 2.
Yeah, this is nice because it's clean, refreshing. It's what people look for. They're like, I want a cider. Kind of what Ryan said. I want something that people kind of anticipate what a cider should taste like.
right? Yeah.
And
it's approachable.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
It's like it's not red colored, but it's not like an Irish red or something where it's approachable, goes with a ton of food, like an amber. It's like in that wheelhouse. Perfect for
Dry.
And super dry, yeah, but not too dry. I don't think a lot of people understand the world of apples and how many apples exist. It's like insane how many different kinds of apples there are. So this one in particular has a few: the Fuji, the Gala, Honeycrisp, Red Delicious, and Granny Smith. When you guys are developing this, do you guys go through a few trials to see what apple works and what doesn't, and how do you do that? Like, what's the thought process?
Everything's based on topography. So, like, for example, next week we're taking Chris to his first. We're popping Chris's cherry and taking him to his first big apple. So
popping my apple.
Popping your apple, which sounds hardcore.
That's not hardcore. That was good.
Wow.
But believe it or not, this is a little bit of this fact trivia for everyone that's watching this. If you take an apple and if you slice an apple right down vertically, and then you take the apple and slice it horizontally,
that's a game,
right? You get the female and male sex, right? And so if you look at that, the apple is very symbiotic in the sense that it brings together community, both male and female.
What? That's crazy.
I think for us, variety is just codependent on climate, similar to like what Colby was touching on. Like we're going to Temecula, which is a hyper-local climate for us. Everyone's like, oh, how do apples and pears grow in Temecula? Well, there's similar there's pockets where the microclimates come in, where we all have, you guys live in San Diego. Yeah, you get that fog that comes in.
Pine Valley's a little microclimate.
Yeah.
I bet apples might grow.
Yeah, we got big swings from cold to hot
Mm-hmm.
in our climate. And so that creates higher bricks in apple in Temecula, believe it or not. So it's nice. It's actually, we produce a higher ABV product from that region because the apples are actually stressed. It's hot up there, and they push all their nutrients to the fruit. Yeah, and it gets really, really sweet, and we can take that and ferment a very high ABV cider. So
Awesome, dude.
there's some variety, and then of course style. Like I'm waiting for Chris to make an ice cider that we ferment similar to like a lager. Well, you ferment it, you actually freeze it at like 32 degrees.
Get the ice out of it.
Yeah, whip the ice out and pour the alcohol out.
Like an ice box.
You like an ice box.
That's called distilling.
Is that? Can we do that?
We can do an ice cider. So
that sounds cool, dude. That sounds really innovative. I can't wait for the future of Newtopia's portfolio, because the three of you put together already, everybody listening can tell that there's just a lot of ideas, and with the passion, the devotion, the know-how that you guys already have. And then Chris, dude, bringing all of what you know from the beer world and having this weird, not weird, but this beautiful.
It is weird. You can say weird.
Weird's good.
Because it really is. It really is. And one of the things that excites me the most is that what you guys are helping propel in San Diego is not only just a diverse, kind of portfolio options to anybody visiting, but you guys are helping establish the city as being a booze capital of the world. Like you have craft beer, you have hard kombucha, you have what I would consider world-class cider, and you go, all right, well, there's a little bit for everybody. And like you guys were alluding to in the beginning, there's a place for cider at the table, at the bar, on your tap, and you guys have really started to forge that for at least ciders everywhere. And do you guys see more cideries opening up across the United States? Like, what is the state of craft cider?
Let's talk about that. So since inception, since we started, we were the first cider house since Prohibition. Since that time, there's been 7 other cider houses that have followed suit. Now, however, there's only a few of them. I'm not going to mention any names because a lot of them are friends. There's a few of them that only do orchard glass, similar to like what we do. Actually crushing the apple, which we do 30 tons of every month, and then essentially bring it in to start fermentation. But yes, that boom has definitely ignited. There's a lot of really cool small little cider houses that are doing some really cool things, and I think everyone is willing to share knowledge, which is cool, or share tools.
Yeah.
Different types of ways to crush apples, or different types of ways how to juice. It's so much of the craft beer scene where everyone's really cooperative. Because we're all kind of
That's beautiful.
COVID crushed us. It was, we're not as popular as beer, but not yet exactly. But we've seen a very huge change in our demographic in terms of our customer. It used to be an 80-20 split female to male. Now it's 60-40 split male to female.
That's insane. That's great.
Completely insane. So average customers under the age of 40, most of them are high income earners. They love variety. They're highly promiscuous consumers.
Is that because males aren't drinking cider in public? They have to buy the cider to go and then go home and drink it.
Let's talk about that.
There is a stigma, right? There is this weird thing about cider, and I won't even put a name on it, but the fact of the matter is that you just laid out some data that's pretty skewed one way. And what do you think, as a cider producer, is the reason why there's more, or there was way more women drinking it, and then men are slowly creeping into the graph?
Well,
I mean, the vast majority, if you just look at the numbers, right, drink like light beer, Coors Light, and all that stuff. So from a fairly early age, you're taught to drink something you don't like. And I think that like cider is too easy to like. It tastes good. I like this. And it's like, you suck. You should have some. You should suffer through this macro lager with me over here. Like, that's what your dad did, and that's what you drank. And I've been drinking ciders in public for quite some time. But I mean, I think anybody who knows me knows I don't really subscribe to what anyone thinks about me or anything that I do. But, if it tastes good, I'm going to drink it. I'm like,
I want that T-shirt that says "I drink cider in public."
Right?
Well, Chris, you're. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother. No.
I was going to say one thing that we noticed, on that same note at the beginning is we didn't start off having 16 ciders on draft. Our soft opening, we had 4. A ton more people showed up and knew about us than we thought would. We blew through stuff. But what I think was kind of cool is that we were making an IPC, a hop cider, for what we thought was going to be, palatable, drinkable for the beer community. And then we had our Belgian pineapple. Well, what ended up happening early on was the Belgian pineapple was getting consumed by the people coming in from the beer industry, and the women were consuming the IPC more. It was like the more popular cider for the women than everything else we had, which kind of like took us all by surprise, at least me.
Women love hops. Let's be frank. I mean, that's a real thing out there. Women crush hops. They know the varietals. They know that Stratus coming off and new. Our consumers are highly educated with. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
They know. They know. They want to know what they are drinking.
Do you think? Hey, Rick, here's a question for you. Do you think that for a long time cider was one-dimensional, or just it was kind of like, oh, they're just fermented apples, and industries like craft beer that started to focus a lot more on the interplay between flavors and what they could do with craft beer, opened up people's palates and minds to say, hey, you know what? We actually don't like craft beer because it's beer alone. We like it because these guys are getting really creative with flavors that I think that they're hitting on. And just cider was just not in that conversation. And now that you guys are really putting a lot of attention and detail into how the flavors are working and what you guys can do with it, it's not that women like it more, men like it more. It's just they're both figuring out that, oh, these guys are making interesting stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, for example, I'll give you a really, really easy analogy. I mean, like, for example, hops. I mean, hops pair well and amazing with food. We all know that, right? You can pick a specific hop for either a dessert hop, this guy loves making pastry stouts.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many crossovers.
I enjoy making everything.
Log.
I'm not in a box.
I like making things people drink.
Yeah. It's palatable, though. Like, it's really approachable. Like Ryan said, like, cider's really approachable. Yeah. And hashtag drink Newtopia. But, it's very easy to consume. And craft beer drinkers already have a very complex palate. I mean, for example, beer drinkers that drink Ballast Point, everything from, like you said, everything from like Under Conundra to like all the way from like Grunny and the Calico to long, and really like get into like really interesting beers that no one has ever tasted. I mean, we're kind of like what Ballast Point was back in 2008.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go with this. The fact that you guys are still very much in your infancy, right? And you guys are crushing it, but there's a long way to go, and you guys are paving a way for the future. One of the things that I've encountered with your brand and everybody involved is that you guys are able to still have that one-on-one personal touch. I go into your tasting room and boom, hey, there's Rick. Oh, and then you come in and you're like, hey, let me tell you about the cider. There's only so much a chalkboard can tell you about it. And then you talk to Rick or Ryan and now Chris, and you go like, let me give you a little bit more of the details. And that is the hook, line, and sinker. That's where you're really going to start getting people to think outside of the pint.
Like, do you want to be talked at? I'll do it.
yeah, dude.
What kind of advice would you give local homebrewers on like getting pressed juice, fermentation, temperature? I know there's, a lot of things that are in cider and even mead that, aren't in, they aren't in those, and they're needed for the nutrients for the yeast to kind of go off a little bit too. And I think that gets lost on a lot of cider makers at some point. I used to go up to Julian Cider Works, and I would get the milk jugs. This was probably 20 years ago, easy, 23 years ago. And I'd just come home, and I found that just putting an airlock in it and letting it ferment out, and then I would dump it into a corny keg, carbonate it, and serve it, and it was this tart, super dry, just great. I would also add beer yeast here and there, but I just kind of like the natural, just ferment it out and everything. Question homebrewers, and then I guess second question: when's your natural fermented cider coming out?
Woo!
Naked weeks.
So we have a couple.
And we have 2 minutes.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, dude, you guys got some time, son.
If we tell him 2, he's gonna take 4. So
Yeah.
he wants to tell you.
I'll give you the short version, the condensed clip note version.
Got stuff we want you to know.
Really, yeah.
All right, yeah, distill it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot of demand for the heritage, traditional English style cider. The cider with a Y, for example, is how we spell our name. We use, we use a very dry English ale yeast inside our barrel ferments. So when we do heritage style, which is very old world, right? Those type of ferments, we'll use specific English style yeast and essentially take that down to 0.995, down to bone dry, as dry as we can. When it comes to, as you guys may know, like doing like barrel ferments, you don't have a whole lot of control, like kind of like what Colby was saying, like you just put this little airlock on there and just let it go. So it's kind of cool because it's like, you're using like native yeast and you're kind of letting the apple do its thing, and you're letting the skins just really, get, soaked into the juice and tannin to soak. Cuvee. Oh, look at that.
Look at that. Yeah, that was a good idea. Hold on.
That.
Keep going, Rick. We're listening.
Oh, dude, you got your own like proprietary blend back there, I can see. Similar to like hops, so like we have apple contracts. We have to go out and buy a particular part of an orchard over a long period of time. Like you guys have hop contracts. Same thing with apple contracts. And they just don't give you apples. Ron had to go up there and shake these orchardists' hands and break bread with them. They're the family because they won't just give you their apples. They want to see what it was all about. So we took Soiree up there as kind of our base ferment to show them really, hey, this is the purity of it. We want the apple to shine. This is kind of our semi-dry, semi-tart flagship apple cider that we'll take to market. And they bought into it. And now, we have semi trucks bringing different blends of Granny Smith, Fuji, Gala, Honeycrisp, Red Delicious from Hood River, Chelan, Yakima, Eastern Washington, Mendocino, Northern California.
If I want to go buy 5 gallons of cider locally, unpasteurized, if you were going to do something, where would you go?
Ooh. So I would go to Julian, or I would go to Temecula, or I would go to Snow Valley, which isn't bad. Ryan and I like a really cool terroir from here. You have to cross it to get to Phoenix. And that's Apple. What's in that little town?
Gila Bend.
That is awesome.
The Apple Town, Gila Bend.
Yeah.
Apple Valley, right? Apple Valley. So, but we're here though. I mean, you can come here. We do fresh press. So this from now until February, we're doing fresh press juice from Julian, Temecula.
Rad.
Where you can come here and purchase that.
Cool.
By the crowler.
There you go. That's
It works
amazing.
out like think about like a wine does a single varietal grape. It's the same thing for us. We take a single varietal apple, and we do like a Fuji. We've done a few Fuji annually. We've done a Granny Smith only by itself as well. We only did that one time. Last year, a new varietal that was out and hot was Cosmic Crisp.
Yes.
So we did a single varietal of that. And then locally, these are kind of single varietals here, unless we blend them, which a lot of times we do like a mountain blend at the end of harvest.
Yep.
Take all the last stuff and do like a mountain blend from up on the mountain.
Ooh,
Just give that traditional style that the purists really like.
Yep.
We don't do it in a big volume. It's not even really a hair of our production volume, but it's local. We do it annually, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's traditional for us. I mean, for Chris, it's going to be his first one, so it's going to be almost like almost like a hazing / orientation.
Popping that apple.
Yeah. We'll make him wash the apple, which he'll find out is similar to like taking grain out of a mash tun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
Equally as fun.
A lot of sense.
Yeah, totally.
Dude, you're an ex-craft brewer wearing a High Life shirt that makes cider.
So you gotta look at it.
Woo!
Hey,
I see what's up. That's cool. Listen, you guys, we could talk to you guys all day long, and I want the three of you to come back on sooner than later. Once once Chris has popped that apple and he knows the ropes. But before we log off, I want to ask you guys to go ahead, and this is your opportunity to plug. What are you guys doing? Where are you guys going? And where can people follow you?
Yeah, so good question. Thanks. So funny story kind of with COVID. I know everyone's affected by it differently, but everyone's affected by it. About February of this year, we were getting ready to expand to 2 markets, Arizona with a large distributor and Nevada with a large distributor. That obviously very quickly came to a screeching halt. Everyone's kind of, everyone tightened up just because no one knew what was going on. So now we're 6-7 months later, and that's about to start coming to fruition. We're getting ready to sign with the distributor in Arizona. We've already signed with Vin Sauvage out of Nevada. So We're going to start sending package and draft products to both of those markets starting in about the next 30 days. So that's been growth for us. Like Rick mentioned, our first venture outside of San Diego was a little small piece to kind of test what we were doing in the Northwest. There's about 160 cideries up there. So we figured no better place than to send our product to give it like a test run, right?
Yeah.
See how it was received and then see what we do in this market. So those 2 are coming on board. It's going to be a big growth piece for us. We're shooting. Our projections have kind of changed and on, but we're still shooting for 10,000 barrels out of the facilities that we're currently in. So that's our goal now, taking care of here's, our local market and then 2 other markets outside of here.
What tasting rooms do you guys have?
We have a tasting room in Scripps Ranch, and we have one up in San Marcos at Block C up there.
All right, and yeah,
be on the lookout for a speakeasy similar to the OG Ballast Point in Oak Grove. We probably will be launching a very small project, getting our DSP, and doing just a small brandy house over. We have a 4,500 square foot facility next door. We'll probably start just using that particular spirit to blend off SKUs. So we're really excited about that.
Very cool. And you guys are on Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz?
Yep.
At Newtopia Cyder is our handle for Instagram. I mean, we're always flexing on Instagram, and then constantly follow I think we have a lot of I think the right term is we have a lot of food. What do you call it? Food drives. We have a food drive coming up here for all of our staff and some of our patrons around the corner here. So just stay tuned to us. We're just trying to stay tight with the community.
Very cool, dude. Give Newtopia a follow on all the social media platforms. Go into their tasting rooms, check their availabilities before you stroll in, and you can find them at your tasting room. And let's go ahead and cheers, my friend. Oh, yes, you have a question.
Oh no, I'm trying to poke.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the question?
We're coming into fall. It's cider time. And I think one of the best Thanksgiving dinner pairings is Hop a Hef.
Whoa!
What's up? When's that coming back?
Talk about that.
Let's actually, you know what? This is great because we have our head cider maker here that's live with you. So we could let's kind of give Colby.
I'll do it.
Colby, if you wouldn't actually, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just give the historical on the collaboration of that particular product that we've done. Because I think that really needs to come from you on how that was originated.
And then you're going to give me a date when we're going to do it, right?
And then I'm going to get a date with Chris.
So I mentioned I used to kind of homebrew some ciders back in the day. I used to go to this great music festival called Baja Bash. It was always down at Salsa Puedes, down in Baja, right above Ensenada. And they moved it up to the La Jolla Indian Reservation. And the first year we went, there was this kind of hippie bus that were just pressing apples and just putting out fresh cider that you could just go buy whatever container that you could walk up with. And so the next year, I brewed a Hefeweizen about 4 or 5 days before the festival so that it would be ready when we were setting up camp. And then we left about a gallon of just really true, just tons of yeast, Hef beer left in the corny keg. Went over, got 4 gallons of cider, came back, fermented it for 2 days, and on the 4th day of the festival, I basically capped it off, the PRV, carbonated it, and we ran it through the jockey box as we were breaking down the camp. And it was amazing. The banana and the clove just worked so well with the apple, and I always kind of wanted to do it. So I went in and I was kind of hanging out at Newtopia when you guys were doing the nickel beer collab.
Oh, yeah.
And Rick and I just kind of started talking. We had similar kind of Hawaiian backgrounds. And I kind of told him my idea with the Hef. And since it was kind of a half and a half, we called it Hoppa Hefeweizen. And just nice and bright, right? Half of it was barley, half of it was cider, and then fermented with good Bavarian Hefeweizen yeast to bring out all those fruity notes. And I don't know, refreshing, good, effervescent, all those good things. And like I said, goes really good with stuffing and cranberry sauce and gravy, and just kind of just like my mouth's watering just talking about it. All right, Tagger it.
Yeah. We have Blue Dream coming out here in November, which is blueberries and then star anise, orange peel, vanilla bean, cinnamon coming out, and oranges, actually. We actually started to squeeze oranges.
In the past, we kind of made the wort at Ballast Point and kind of shipped it over to you guys, but I also think that you could get away with dried malt extract. And we've talked about that in the past on a real light level, you know, so it's all in house. So
yeah,
Tagger it.
Think about it, Chris.
Sounds like something is brewing up, fermenting up, whatever. I'm excited about it. I just want this to happen. So make it happen, you guys.
I just want to drink it again.
How long are you gonna sit there waiting to say that?
This will be the 3rd batch if you do it again.
Yeah, third batch, baby.
Yeah.
There's the charm, you guys.
3 ciders. Three ciders out now, I think. Holy ass.
Well, dude, awesome. Listen, Manimals, we got to log off, but I just want you guys to all raise a can, a glass, or whatever, and let's give a little right there. Cheers, guys. Thanks. We really appreciate.
See you guys. See you guys.
Right there. Hey, thanks for jumping on the show. Everybody go enjoy yourself some craft cider. Newtopia, what's up?
Right on, man. See you guys next.
So hard. That was so hard.
It was so hardcore.
It was so hard.
All right, guys. That was amazing. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the rest of our episodes on Ballast Point's YouTube page, channel, whatever. You can follow us on ballastpoint.com, Instagram, Facebook, all that jam. I'll see you next time, and thanks for tuning in.